A warm welcome to our host Bidisha Roy Das, our members and our guests. I'll begin with a brief introduction to Without Filters, birth during COVID, the time of physical distancing. The times of physical distancing nudged us to relook ways to fulfill our needs to gather, to connect, to show up. Zoom provided the space for our monthly meetings. We meet the third Saturday of the month at this time. Getting through housekeeping to ensure your microphone is on mute. You switch off your video if you're stepping away from the meeting and that your mobile device is set on silent. The question and answer sessions will be at the end of every section. Dear Usha, thank you for inviting and convening this meeting, for inviting in Bidisha. The etymology of culture in Latin is cultus, meaning care. In French, coller means to tell. The etymologies blend harmoniously with what anthropologist Margaret Mead recognizes as being the first sign of civilization, a femur which was broken and then healed. A broken femur which has healed is evidence that someone has taken time to stay with the one who fell, has bound up the wound, has carried the person to safety, and has tended the person through recovery. Helping someone else through difficulty, proposes Margaret Mead, is where civilization starts. Civilization, culture, heritage are intrinsic components to the continuance of human society. As per the UNESCO definition, cultural heritage does not end at monuments and collection of objects. It also includes traditions or living expressions inherited from our ancestors and passed on to our descendants, such as oral traditions, performing arts, social practices, rituals, festive events, knowledge and practices concerning nature and the universe, or the knowledge and skill to produce traditional crafts. Our host, Bidisha Roy Das, is a proponent of both the film and the music traditions. Let's begin with a preview into her contribution to the film tradition. Bidisha, a broadcast journalist, television producer, and independent filmmaker for over 20 years, founded the JD Art Center of JD Center of Art Film Forum in 2006. The center endeavors to archiving, documenting, and screening of films on art, housing over 2,000 documentary films. In 2016, Vidisha established Anjuman to develop 20th century skills and capacities of children and young adults through the pedagogy of art. The Footprint Film Festival, the flagship event of Anjuman, showcases trends in digital storytelling and new audiovisual languages from across the country and several parts of the world, facilitates co-production between producers, increasing awareness of theme of the festival via digital storytelling. Vidisha is trained in Hindustani classical music and she has been performing for over 20 years as a semi-classical vocalist at national and international events. Dear members and guests, do join me in welcoming Ms. Bidisha. And over to you, Bidisha, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Shireen. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Usha, for introducing me to this wonderful group. And to everybody else, I'm hoping that through the evening, I will get to know everyone a little better. I think it's a great opportunity to address a little bit that I know about some of you. I feel quite delighted to be here and to speak to a wonderful, dynamic, and passionate audience. It's always wonderful. And that too, to share thoughts about something that's very close to my heart, which is art and creativity and the act of creation. I thought I'd organize my talk in sort of 3 small segments. It's not like I have a lot to share. I'm still figuring out so many things about art and education. So these are a lot of it, these are my personal thoughts and views on the topic, and they're based on my personal experience of engaging with the arts as a practitioner, as a teacher, educator, and an entrepreneur, and of course, a lot of self-study. So a lot of this I've really studied on my own. So I hope you find all of this valuable since all of you have taken out time to come and meet me and listen to me. So, like I said, there are going to be 3 short segments, and after each segment, it would be lovely if I invite all of you to share your thoughts. If you have questions, let's talk to each other, and then we can, sort of maybe conclude at the end and have another round. So, is that okay with everybody? Does that work for everyone? Okay, great. I'm just going to share my screen. Are you all able to see the screen? Yeah, okay, great, wonderful. So like I said, I think art for me, I believe, is unequivocally life. No matter how fragile the times are, I think it's any form of art is a testimony of, or a predicament of, the human condition. And it of course for me has the power to capture the essence of life itself. So for me, it's really a reflection of our innermost sort of desires, our hopes, our fears, our dreams, from love to hatred to life and death. I think every aspect of humanity, I think, can be expressed through different forms of art. So it's something that is a universal language and a way to sort of communicate with others across borders and languages and any sort of barriers. So I'd like you to look at this work. Of course, you can see this particular artwork. And I'm going to show you a series of couple of other paintings. These are mostly ink and watercolor. By an artist called Jatin Das. And these works were done when he was locked up during the lockdown for almost 3 months. And he lives here in Delhi. And during that time, there was a lot happening. There was, all these migrant workers who were trying to make ends meet. Are you still seeing my screen?
Yes.
Are you still able to? Okay, because I'm seeing something else. And that's when he did a series of work. So I just thought I'll share some of this because if you look at the work, I think the authenticity in the painting or in all of these works, you can feel that. And in any work of art, whether it's music or dance or theater, I think because it resonates, that authenticity resonates with the same sort of essential being in the creator, the one who's created, and the creation. That's how you sort of experience art. And the artist is, there are artists who are called magicians, but it's so interesting that what art really brings out is really the universal truth, and it opens that up. But we still call artists magicians. I think for me, art is not just about a painting or a good song or a composition or, even a film, but these are kind of forms for me. And these are forms which contribute into the lived and the cultural heritage, sort of adding layers of complexity and beauty to our kind of shared human experience. So for me, art is not abstract. For a lot of people, they feel that art is a very abstract concept and it sort of exists in vacuum. But for me, it's very intertwined with our daily lives, sort of shaping our perceptions and how we understand the world around us. So it's constantly also inspiring us to see things through very different lenses, to sort of challenge certain preconceived ideas and notions that we have, and therefore fostering a sort of sense of community and shared purpose. So that's where I see, and that's how I see the act of creation and art itself. Of course, for me, again, art is not limited to a painting in a gallery or a museum. To me, it's all around me. So I was very lucky. I grew up in a home where it wasn't like a painting or a dance or a music, but it was all around. It's how we lived our lives. Whether it was reading literature or poetry or doing just all of us cousins getting together and putting up a play, all of this was very much a part of how we lived our lives. So for me, I think art exists in the patterns that I see, in the sky, or the design that you see in a spider web is art for me. So that's how I see art, and that's how I experience it. It's not just a painting or just a very good piece of classical music even. Also, I feel very strongly about the fact that I think art is not just for the elite or for the wealthy. Again, I think it permeates and it's for everybody and it's there all around us. Something that really inspires me about art practice is its ability to change. I'm not sure that a lot of people believe that art itself can lead to change, but I think throughout history, art has been very specifically used to, I think, challenge status quo, confront injustice, bring people together in sort of common causes. So I see art as being able to inspire social change and even affect political discourse. So I see that possibility. Whether we are able to do that, whether we choose to do that, whether we believe we can do that is, of course, a question that all of us can think about and share. I think art and art practice or creativity, whatever you may want to call it, is very, very fundamental to who we are. A lot of people I have heard and spoken to make distinction between art and, say, for example, science or any other domain. And I've often heard people say mathematics. And I remember this incident where my son, he was in a progressive school. And he used to play a lot of different instruments. And one day his math teacher called me and she wanted to have a conversation. And she said, he asks quite strange questions in the class, in the algebra class. And I said, okay. And she seemed to think that he may have an issue with math. He was, I think, 6 years or 7 years old. I can't remember, but quite little at that point. And I said, okay. And I said, she was a math teacher, and I knew that she was also a South Indian classical musician. So I just told her about how Rehan plays different instruments. And, he's able to pick up patterns. So I asked her, I said, do you see a connection between math and music? And she said something very interesting to me. She said, math we do with the mind, and music you do with the heart. And I've often thought about this and thought a lot about it. But for me, really, I think art is a language of the heart and the mind. It's not just the heart. You can't do art, any form of art, just with the heart. But for me, it's a language of the heart and the mind. So, for me, I see it as I see life and art as the relationship as metaphorical, because just as in life, life is complex, it's multifaceted, it's full of, meaning, and so is art. So I think art can be and has been a metaphor for life, because it's always evolving, it's changing, just as life is sort of never static, right? We're always in movement, and it's always redefined and reinterpreted with each passing generation, whether it's in the form of a painting or a sculpture or a piece of music or literature. I think it just speaks to us in at any particular time. It speaks to each one of us in new and profound ways, making it sort of uh, timeless and very enduring for human experience. So, and that's what I would call art. So something that doesn't speak to you over time, it doesn't speak across the board to different kinds of people from different parts of the world. I often wonder whether that itself is art or not. But for me, art would be speaking to just about everybody and anybody. So whether you're a practitioner, I think, and whether you're the one who's creating, so whether you're a part of creation or whether you're a part of experiencing, I think what art does, any work of art, is going to serve as a metaphorical lens through which one can view and understand and engage with the things that happen around the world. So I'm going to take a break from talking right now, and I would like to show you a film. So I've been making documentary films, and my friend and old-time colleague Priyanjana Datta, we both made a film. I wanted to do a series actually on 3 women. I've done 2, and I still haven't been able to do the 3rd film. I hope to do it sometime soon. I'm going to show you some clips of this film called Leela. I don't know, do any of you remember her? Leela Naidu, have any of you seen her? Yes? Okay, Mela. Right. So Leela, of course, at one point, sort of Vogue named her one of the world's most beautiful women. And I knew Leela quite well. I spent a lot of time with her, and she was an excellent storyteller. So, and one day I just woke up and I said, why haven't I made a film on Leela? Leela had a very, very difficult life. She was a storyteller. She was a documentary filmmaker. She was an artist. She was an actor. She was a great documenter. Her second husband, Dom Morris, again, a very well-known poet. Many of you may have known and read his work. So, uh, Dom was traveling the world, and Leela was traveling with him, and she was doing all the documenting for all the work that he did later. So Leela's life is very, very interesting, and she had all wonderful stories to tell. And some of the stories came from a time where she may not have been there. So I'm just going to show you clips of that film, because this whole idea of, art and art being life, every time I think about it, I think about Leela's life. And it was traumatic. It was very difficult, but she did it her way. Yeah. So just give me a moment and I will show you clips of the film.
Is there sound to this, Bidisha?
You're not able to hear it?
No.
Okay, let me just check. Can you hear now?
Again, there's no sound.
Sorry, did you say you can't hear the sound?
No,
Yes, no sound.
can't hear.
I'm wondering why, because I've shared sound. Should be able to hear it. Can you hear now?
No. Do you want to give the link to any one of us, Rekha or someone?
To save and then do it. Are you doing share sound, Bidisha? Send the link on WhatsApp. Yeah.
I can't send you a link, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the problem. I thought as much.
Because it's a 45-minute film, so that's why you.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you able to share sound? Did you check
Yeah,
that?
I'm able to.
setting?
I'll try again one more time. Just hold on. Can you hear now?
No. No.
It came and went.
You will cast these stories. Fancy ladies with false eyelashes.
Can hear.
With the suit.
Sound, no sound.
I'm just wondering why that's happening, that in parts you can hear it.
Sometimes we hear faint sounds coming and going.
Oh, Saira Banu to Tir
Yeah.
और साधना तीर मारते थे मेरे को तीर तो नहीं चाहिए तो फिर क्या चाहिए सादा फिर नाक आपका नाक बहुत छोटा है ऐसा है तो ये फिर ऐसा बड़ा होएगा और फिर ये ग्रीन क्या हो रहा है तो ग्रीन होने सकती अब ये बड़ा है तो थोड़ा सा शेडिंग करेंगे ग्रीन false eyelashes. I said, false eyelashes? You know, there's very, they couldn't understand. Shorba mein, soup mein girta hai. Which happens, you know, especially in this humidity. I've been told ghastly stories of fancy ladies with false eyelashes. And they just literally fall in the soup. Means, number one, at Nulmatur. The 5 at Father tell Mama, I want to study the piano. Just downstairs, the oldest British citizen who was the one who used to do all your Academy of Music in England. So what I used to do, I'd listen from that. He had two great grand pianos under. And my great favorite was Chopin. He said, teach you your first lesson on the piano. You're going to only do your finger exercises on this table. Then when you do this, I will teach you the notation. I said in my voice, when can I touch the piano? He said, no, till I tell you, 1 year. I said, oh, 1 year. And Mummy's birthday is on the 15th of August. And guess what I chose? Just guess what? The funeral march of Chopin. Dum pam pam pam, ra 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 ra, dee ra ra ra. We were in Matunga, in a beautiful house called Sunman. So, where's Sunman? Why was it Sunman? Because it was owned by a pickle wala who used to make sun pickles. Am I boring you? I arrived in this tent. So the father who was, he just waved me and I found a little place near the flat next to a fat little boy. Fat little boy. Now don't be shocked. You don't be shocked. And you don't be shocked. And they were doing little butterfly cutups and I like with little pins in them. And guess what? Judgy little boy did. He was older than me. He must have been 5. I've always got this habit of being the youngest in the class, but I mean, I just said. And he opened his, his shop. And I saw a fat wriggly worm hanging out. Instinct number 1. I took one butterfly with a pin and I pinned it there. Oh my God, how we yelled. How we yelled. And I was looking at them as why is he yelling? Because I know nothing about you. Extensions of the human body. I swear. Sorry, am I bending too? I bounce like a monkey. Send me to Jammu service.
Yeah, I hope you were able to hear some of that. I'm not sure why the sound was giving trouble, but were you able to hear,
Parts of
she was
it,
full of
not,
stories,
yeah.
always, very interesting ones. Sorry, you were saying something, Rekha?
No, parts of it, it kept.
I can't hear you now.
But still, what we heard was interesting. She played the funeral march for her mom's birthday. So cute. And
So she
those
was full of
pictures are so
stories.
lovely.
Yes, absolutely. And she had a great sense of humor. I mean, I'll share the link of the film, which is on YouTube. I mean, towards the end, of course, the film has, her life was very, very traumatic. And, but, because of the sense of humor and because of the way she lived her life, I think that is very, very inspiring. And she was very sick when I was shooting the film. She she had osteoporosis. She was an alcoholic. So she'd be drinking from morning, and we would have to finish shooting by midday, because by the time it was about 1 o'clock, she was in no condition to, either do an interview or anything else. But she died alone. And it's sad because after I shot the film and I wanted to gift her the film on her 70th birthday, but she didn't have the time to wait, and she left. So couldn't show her the film there. I'll take a break and maybe we can have some questions, any thoughts you have, that would be nice.
So you chose Leela Naidu only because, like you knew her, or I mean, you said you wanted to do a series of women, and who was the second lady?
Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to show you another clip
Okay.
from that
Yeah.
film as well. So to answer your question, yes, I knew Leela, and I was looking to make a sort of trilogy. I'm still hoping to complete the trilogy with 3 very, very different women. And to me, the kind of choices that they made, right, were unconventional choices. The things that they did in their life, but still those are very, very inspiring. And I think that's what I find interesting. And that for me is art, that it's about going against the grain. It's doing things differently. It's about these different perspectives that people have. And interestingly, I think women have done a lot of it. Not to say that men have not, but being a woman, I think I was drawn to the story. Knowing Leela, naturally, to do documentaries, it's always good to know your subject really well. And if you know what is, a lot of people may have stories, but they may not want to reveal it to you. Leela was very open to sharing the stories with me. She trusted me, and she knew that although there were many things in the film which I shot, which I didn't show in the film, and that was a bit of a dilemma for me. Yeah, so the second in the series is Binodini, MK Binodini, Maharaja Kumari Binodini, who's from Manipur. I don't know if you heard about her. She's a very well-known, she died, an activist, and she wrote poetry. And again, I didn't know her, but I read a very interesting story when I came across a magazine. I was pregnant and I was waiting at the doctor's I was just waiting to go to the doctor, and there was a magazine lying, and someone had done a story on the very well-known artist Ramkinkar Bej in Shantiniketan, his muse, and Binodini was apparently his muse. So at that particular time, pre-independent India, a lot of people from the Northeast went to study to Shantiniketan at Tagore's University and College. So that's where Binodini also went. And I knew that Ramkinkar he had done a series of works called Binodini. There's some beautiful sculptures and work that he had done. So I read this little article and I got really interested. I got to read about Binodini, and again, she made some very, very difficult choices. So we went and did a film with her. So that was the second one. Sorry, third one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the third one is a story again. I've been a journalist, so I was doing a story on a collection which had come from the V&A. These were photographs of, there used to be these glass negatives. So all the royalty used to be photographed when they came to England. And there was this one very striking photograph in that collection of this woman who was standing alone. And I found out, and she was the Rani of Mandi. And apparently she ran away and went to Europe. And then she was captured by the Nazi. She helped a lot of people during her time. I wanted to do her story because, but her family was not very keen. I found out a lot. I found some letters. But her family here, they first denied that she existed. Even her existence was denied. I'm still hoping to do it because just a couple of days ago, I know someone has done a book on her. So, so let's see. I hope I can do that story. That's again a very different woman, very different choices, very, very inspired.
Is there a common
Good luck.
thread between the three documentaries? A common thread?
Other than the fact, like I said, they made very different choices, and they lived their life on their own terms. I think that's the common thread. They were at different times, they did different things, they came from very different backgrounds. Of course, all three, if Rani of Mandi were to happen, then all three come from very well established, wealthy families who did very different things. So if at all, that's what's common. And that's what's sort of stopping me from doing Rani of Mandi. I feel like I need to find a woman from a very different socioeconomic background, maybe. But I have to find, it's like I'm still seeking and I have to find the person in the story.
Bidisha, how old was Leela Naidu when you first met her?
Sorry?
How old was Leela Naidu when you first met her?
I met her in the year 2000. She died in 2009.
9, yeah.
Yeah. And when I met her, yeah, so early 60s. Yeah.
I remember her film on the Nanavati case.
Yes, yes.
Ye Raasate Hai Pyar
Absolutely.
Ki. Yes.
Ye
yes.
Raaste Hai Pyar Ke, yeah. Yes, and Leela was fantastic. I mean, we couldn't get, she had a lot of photographs at home. It was wonderful to get all that collection, but she had made some very nice documentaries and I couldn't get my hands onto those films. Those were not fun. But yeah, but shooting with Leela was fantastic, but very, very traumatic as well. After 7 days, I just came back to Delhi. I ran away and came back to Delhi because you sort of, you start living her life when you're with her. And that, at the point at which we were shooting the film, I mean, a person like her with exceptional qualities and talent and intelligence and beauty and whatnot has had a very difficult life.
Does she have children?
Yes,
Two
she had 2 daughters. So she was married to Vicky Oberoi. Tiki Oberoi, sorry, not
Vicky
Vicky
Oberoi.
Oberoi. She was married to Tiki Oberoi. Tiki had problems of substance abuse. So both her daughters were drug addicts. One of them died.
Oh.
Yeah.
And her husband, Dom Moraes, was also a very unconventional kind of person.
Yeah, I knew Dom also very well. And Dom has been to my house many times. So yeah, but I love Dom's poems, but I also know Dom very well. And I didn't appreciate him as a person. It's very interesting, Dom left Leela. And Dom, the first time that he left his first wife, and this is a very interesting story. So he would just come in and, say, I'm going down to get some cigarettes and never come back. So his first wife wrote an autobiography and she writes in the book that he just went and I kept waiting for him. He did something very similar with Leela as well. So he was having an affair with this lady and all the letters and poems he had written, it's in the film. If you watch it towards the end, she talks about it. And he almost kept those things for Leela to discover and find. And then he left for Kolkata and then never came back to her. So that's when her alcoholism got much worse. And Dom taught her to drink. So
Very sad.
yes, very, very sad.
I read one of Dom's book called Walking the Indian Streets. Have you read that?
No, I haven't. How is it?
It's an interesting concept. He and a friend had the same experience and they both wrote a book based on that experience.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't read that.
It is, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? I haven't heard some other voices. Anyone else would like to share their thoughts on, where does sort of art sit in their lives? Any experience that you'd like to share?
Muni, may I please ask you to contribute something since you're a
Okay. So, the other thing that I wanted to share with all of you is that, art or creativity is not something that's limited to one particular domain. So I think there are a lot of misconceptions about, what art is, or the fact that, it can be found everywhere and anywhere. So it's not limited to either a few select people, or it's not limited to any one particular domain, like only singing or dancing or or painting or writing poetry. So I think it's often a sort of preconceived notion that creativity itself is restricted only to and limited only to artists and to people in creative fields. So that's a myth which I seem to find among many people from various people I meet. Even children tend to, because of the adults, tend to believe that it's something. So whether it's a scientist or whether it's a politician or whether it's an engineer or I think creativity is crucial for success in my mind, because creative thinking to me is about creativity is a lot about creative thinking. It's not always creating a product, but it's about the way you think. It's something that allows you to find solutions. I think it's about bringing new dimensions to what you are doing. So at one level, it's a skill which I think everyone can acquire. Again, I think a lot of people believe that you're born creative. Yeah, but I think it's a skill that can be acquired. I think if you nurture creativity, which means that, yes, Usha.
I wanted to just say the point you made about it helps you find solutions and
Yeah.
come up. In my time, when I started my career in the advertising industry, I was in Kolkata, which was the headquarters of all the top 3 agencies in the country.
Right.
And we those days MBA was not a must for you to be a client service or account manager. They would, as fresh graduates, we were taken into agencies. The interview was entirely about your background, your family background, and how much cultural exposure you had. It
Okay,
was
very
based on that
interesting.
we were selected, Most of
Really.
us were selected based on our exposure, our, the amount of literature we read and what our fathers and
Sure.
mothers and brothers are doing. And that is an impression on who you are. And that makes you a great executive or otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think, creativity is something that is highly undervalued. I find it undervalued now. I mean, because, like I said, people tend to think that it is something that is limited to certain people, or it's something that you bring with you. But this ability to connect disparate things, sort of being able to see certain possibilities where other people cannot see those possibilities, pushing those boundaries. I think these are not things people see as creativity, or they don't understand these as creativity. Right. Or creative thinking. So that's why I think and to me, really, creativity is about pushing the boundaries. It's like I said, whether it's Leela or it's Binodini or Rani of Mandi or many others who, I think that's what they were doing. They were really pushing the boundaries at that particular time. And that's what makes it really interesting. So I think in that sense, creativity to me is a very fundamental trait in human beings. It's not something that someone is, okay, you may have your parents or you may have your grandparents. I had everybody on my mother's side sings, yeah, and I guess that's why I'm blessed to have a voice in that sense. But I don't see just being able to sing as being creative. I don't see that, but I do see that what I can do with the music that I learned in a particular time, how I curate it, how do I take the music to other people. If I'm not pushing the boundaries there, if I'm not connecting things which have been given to me to what is now, then where is the creativity? If I'm just going to copy another song and it's just going to be a singing of a certain skill that I will develop, according to me, that would not be creativity.
Right.
At least in my mind, I see creative thinking as central to that. So, it's, and also whether you, whatever profession you're in, like whatever work you do, you're a homemaker. I think the connections, and like I said, when you connect very, very different ideas and insights and experiences to create something new, that's when, for me, that's where creativity happens. So, the question that I have in my mind all the time is that, how do you cultivate this, right? I think that's a question that I've heard a lot of parents ask me, for example, or generally people ask, how do you cultivate this, whether you call it a skill, whether you call it this ability to see things differently. How do you cultivate that? Because for me, creativity is a necessity. It's not a luxury. I think, for far too long, people have been very happy to think of creativity as a luxury. It is something that it's okay not to have, but I feel otherwise. I feel it is a necessity because of the way I see what creative thinking is all about. So therefore, in that case, how do you sort of nurture it? How do you cultivate it? In my mind, and I'll be happy to hear what others in the group have to say, in my mind and experience, I think the first thing for me is to be able to embrace curiosity, for example, right? Even as adults, I think we are not playful enough. Yeah, we need to be playful. We need to be curious. We need to sort of constantly be in environments where you have a safe space to be able to challenge assumptions that are, very well established. So if we're not going to play around, we are not going to be able to become creative. Any of you have any thoughts on how do you sort of cultivate this? What has it been for any of you? Like any experiences to share?
Yeah, sorry. Can I ask you if you know anything about painting from your subconscious? Because I think that's what I do, but I don't even really understand it.
Okay.
Because I'm an abstract artist, and I generally don't copy anything. I just take paints and I play around with colors, you see?
Right.
And then I see figures and various shapes and things like that in that. So, and then before I actually start a painting, I might stare at my canvas for sometimes half an hour or whatever, and then it just evolves. My painting just sort of evolves. So do you know anything about that, about painting from your subconscious? I've heard people say that, but I don't really understand it myself.
Thank you, Teruni, for sharing that. I haven't done enough study on it to know a lot about it, but I've, almost, I'm 51 now, and I've spent most of my life with artists, in the presence of artists. And I'm confused, but I think one of the things that I have seen people do is that, like you said, I have seen artists look at their canvas, look at their paper, and just stare at that space. And then they start working on it, right? So I have seen them do that. Now, whether and how the subconscious operates, I'm not really sure. But if I can understand the way it's worked for some of them, is that it's a combination of probably, of course, there are certain skills that have got developed to be able to do that work. The other thing is that I think the
Yeah.
way they look at things that are happening around them, right? So, like I said, the work that I shared with you just in the beginning, which the artist had done, right? I saw him do about almost close to about 100 or 100 odd works, right, over a period of time. And they were just, I mean, he was just looking at that paper and it was just coming out, okay? And he was feeling very, very strongly about what was happening around him. He couldn't sleep for nights, I remember, and he was doing that work. So, but yeah, I would love to know how that happens. But one of the things I have experienced, Teruni, and it's come from a different domain, is music. I have only experienced it, I myself have only experienced it only once or twice, where I've been on the stage and there is this feeling of as though there is nothing you know, all that training that you've had, everything that you know, sort of is not there at all. And something else sort of takes over for you to be able to do it. And it's just been twice for me. So this is fairly new, but I would love to know a lot more about it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anybody else would like to share anything else that they have felt about, you know, this, about the act of creation and how that happens? And how do you nurture and how do you sort of cultivate it? You know, why I'm worried about this, and it really worries me to see that, you know, people hold these kind of myths about creativity and art and make it very limited to certain people, is that I think the kind of challenges that we face in the world right now, whether it's social injustice or whether climate change, any of this, I think if we are not able to if creativity and creative thinking is not going to become a necessity, we're going to find it very, very difficult to find solutions that are sustainable, that are equitable, that are just, because that's what art does for me. You know, that's what it allows you to find, those kind of solutions. It helps you because you're able to empathize, you're able to you're able to see people beyond the boundaries, you're able to listen well to people. You can listen to what people are not saying. So all of that, I think if creative thinking, creativity were to become more of a necessity than a luxury, we'd probably be able to find better solutions to what we have. So I think it's important to create a supportive environment, you know, to for the creativity to thrive. I think that is sometimes lacking, whether it's in the home, whether it's in a school, whether it's in the workplace. We need to create spaces which are inspiring and motivating. I think in the kind of world we live in, where I think, you know, productivity, efficiency, conformity, these are the things that are valued. And this is especially in the workspace. If this is what we value, then it's going to be very difficult for us to nurture and let creativity sort of thrive in that space. Okay, I just wanted to, you know, show you some pictures of, Usha had asked me, so I'm going to just share some pictures of the work that we have done in Anjuman, because I think that was the whole idea of Anjuman, was to create a space in the schools and outside schools for this creative thinking to get cultivated, to get nurtured. I also see that there is a very strong connection between leadership and what leadership at least means to me, and I understand it, and using art as a way to develop those leadership skills. So all of that you know, we've been talking about, I think a deeper understanding of who you are, you know, developing empathy, being able to sort of connect with your own emotions, being able to, I think being inclusive is such an important part of being a leader today, according to me. everyone can participate irrespective of their social or sort of academic backgrounds. This accessibility, I think, is a very, very important instrument, according to me, to develop the future generations. And therefore, if leaders are not going to be inclusive, we are not going to be able to find. So art really allows for that kind of inclusivity, and understanding inclusiveness happens. It certainly, like I just mentioned, it encourages a lot of good listening skills. I think leaders need to be able to listen very, very well. And if you listen better, you understand better. And if you can hear and listen to perspectives, then your ability to communicate effectively and to resolve conflicts. We live in a world of so many conflicts, and that becomes so much better. So for me, I think leaders need to be able to listen better. And again, art allows you, if you listen to music, I think one of the things I've seen is children who listen to music from a very young age, their ability to listen and their listening skills become better. Art, I think, allows you to build trust. It's an open space. You can build trust. You can improve. That trust building happens because you understand how to communicate, not just through words, but you understand non-verbal communication. You understand a person's body language. You're able to build trust. So I have found all of this very, very useful, and that's how Anjuman happened. I felt that if not for adults, then for children. So I'm just going to share some pictures for all of you to see of the work that we have been doing. For us, it's very, very inspiring because, we just loved seeing what children were able to do. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So these are some pictures from, the early years when we started Anjuman. This was in the government schools of Delhi. We worked in about 40 odd schools. The fact that creativity and art is not limited to any resource, right? We didn't have anything, and we used to, one of the things that we did was to find things around the school to be able to create things around. So these are some pictures from that time. These are all from the government school where the children would be doing art, theater, music. This is a photograph. We also ran, while we were working with children, I had to also work with the trainers. So the teachers were all artists, young artists, and we built a curriculum for the children with them. So they went through a learning process as well. So this is one of the pictures from that training session. This is in a private school in Delhi where we worked. This was a leadership program that we were doing, again, using different forms of art. These students are all the student council members, and they were all leaders, going to become leaders. So we ran a program for the student council members. We've done that. This is again the government school. There was a tree. This is a lovely story. There was a tree which had almost died and there were no leaves, and they tried really hard, but somehow you'd never have flowers or leaves. So we ran this project, and the children made things out of paper that was wasted most of the time in the school. And we had a flowering tree at the end of the project. All of these are, a lot of theater happened. I think improv theater is something that really helps People understand each other really well, understand scenarios. This is something that we've also done with corporates and adults over the years. This is last year from a project that we did on the World Children's Day. UNICEF had asked me to design. So they had, their theme was inclusion and sports. And we took these little vignettes from stories from, that UNICEF had shared with us of girls and boys who were in rural India, who were trying to take up sports. There's a lot of resistance. And we created these little stories which use different forms of art. There was one which had music, one which had dance, theater. So these are, we had quite a lot of children, I think over about 200 children from across schools in NCR, in the National Capital Region. It was a one-day program that we did for UNICEF. This is another very interesting project. I was consulting with the Society of Schools, and they were for their arts curriculum. And they wanted to do a program. Actually, it was my idea initially to do a program for 75 years of India's independence. So again, we did I think it was a 1.5 hour composite production, which had the story India at 75. Again, we used different art forms. Children got to express, they knew the history. There was a script that was written. Children and some adults together collaborated to put up this 1.5 hour show called India at 75. And this, of course, is, these are some images from Footprint Film Festival. I think as Shireen introduced a flagship program of Anjuman, we have been working with young children and adults on content creation. Each one of us are into content creation now, but I think we need to be able to create meaningful, safe content, ethical content. Some of these pictures are from the Air Force schools that we've been working with. We also did another project with UNICEF across the country, traveling across the country, where again, the framework for us is the tool remains the art, but the framework is a leadership framework. So we are looking at learning to be, which is about self, learning to learn, which is about learning ways in which we learn, learning to collaborate, which is about understanding how collaboration works, and learning to do, which could be any skill or any form of any domain that you learn. In this case, of course, it's digital skills and content creation. So I just wanted to end to say that, I wear different hats, and to me, there is a common thread for me, whether I'm a mother, whether I make films, whether I'm working with young people. I think, for me, it's this this ability to be able to connect the dots, find things that are different, look at it from different perspectives, create a space where children and young adults can push those boundaries to innovate. That's what is really meaningful for me. And I think it has to be there. It has to sort of permeate in your life. So art itself to me is not just a form, or it's not a domain, but it's very much to do with how I live my life and how I hope that others can find all the joy that I have found in the arts. I'm happy to take any questions or any comments that any of you have. Share your thoughts. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me.
Bidisha, I have a question.
Yes.
Where can we see your film on Leela?
Yeah, I'll send the link. I'll send the link. It's on YouTube. I'll send it.
Thank you.
Usha, you're muted. I can't hear you.
Is Binodini the character on whom this song Ogo Binodini, Ami Chini Go Chini? It's not the same Binodini, right?
No,
Okay.
that Chini Go Chini is Tagore's,
Rabindranath. Yeah.
yeah,
Satyajit.
Tagore's sister-in-law.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, actually not her sister-in-law. Ami Chini Go Chini is, I think, Victoria Ocampo. He met her and then I think they fell in love as well. So,
Okay.
Ami Chini Ogo Bideshini, not
Videshini means the
Binodini.
woman who lives in far off lands.
Yeah,
Foreign lands.
Bideshini. That's Victoria Ocampo.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Bidisha, how old were you when you started getting interested in filmmaking and stuff?
I was very lucky. My mother, unlike a lot of kids in my age, were not allowed to watch films. But my mother would always take me to, as in when I mean take in the sense we had cinema halls to watch, and then we also had the Sunday films used to happen. So she would let me watch the films, and then when I think the VCR came, we used to watch a lot of films. She loved watching films. Very good films that I watched. So I think my love for filmmaking, also I think I'm a visual person. So that's the way I learn better as well. So, when you show me something, I learn better. So that may be just the way I learn. And she may have figured that, I don't know. But she used to make me watch a lot of films. So by the time I used to read a lot, and I wanted to, so even when I read my books, I felt like this film going on in my head. So when I was in school, I started telling her that I wanted to learn how to make a film. My father used to get me cameras. We didn't have video cameras, but still cameras at that point. So I think very much while I was in school, I wanted to, I mean, I didn't know what I needed to do because there was very little information available at that time. But yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks to my mother, I don't think I would have watched so many films if she had not.
Is your primary focus on women and feminism?
It's a good question. I haven't thought about it. I think feminism in India is quite, the framework for me is very, very different. I think the Western, the way feminism is looked at in the Western world and the way it is in India is quite different. Although I've read a lot when I was doing my master's on cultural studies, I think I was highly influenced by the feminist movement in the West. But it's interesting to see how it has developed in India. There are parts that I do agree with. There are things I don't agree with. It's very contextual to the kind of culture we have. Of course, I find women's stories very, very interesting. I love working with young girls too, because I think there are still, there's a lot to be done with women and girls. So yes, certainly, I think I'm inspired and I'm attracted to doing things in that area, but I won't say that that's my main focus.
I think I'll reframe feminism to women's empowerment because, as you rightly
Yeah,
said,
absolutely.
cannot
Yeah.
transpose the European or the Western the concept of feminism to Eastern. It's culturally there are nuances and differences. Certainly, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I think empowerment is what I like that word. So even with teachers, I work with teachers more than training. I don't like the word training, but empowerment is something that I can relate to. And yes, I think at
But you
every
do,
stage, we all have to be empowered.
there's a
Sorry, Usha.
good part of your time spent with children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Significant part.
In fact, I just started working last 2 days. I've been going to an NGO here in Delhi, and there are about 15 girls I'm working with. There's a place called Munirka, and these are all children of migrant workers. So I'm working with them for them to make some films. It's very interesting. Their stories are interesting. I can clearly see that they feel quite shy to talk about certain, I mean, in a city like Delhi, I can still see that they feel shy to talk about things that are happening around them in their homes. So, yeah, I think I feel attracted to go and work with them and give them I think it's important to, their voice is very, very important for me.
You said shy is trauma-related incidents that they are diffident to communicate. Is it trauma-related? With something to do with trauma and maybe abuse that they don't want to talk about?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. Absolutely. Sometimes it may not be they themselves, but it may be happening next to them. Yes, absolutely. I think you're muted, Shireen.
I would believe that a form of expressing their trauma is a modality to healing. I mean, if they could represent it or express it
Yes.
through the media, it's one thing is communicating and also expressing what one feels, because migrant workers and the children they leave behind are riddled with a lot of, because the mother or the father, the main breadwinner, would be a parent. They're left with caregivers, and trauma is abundant in those social contexts.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the things I noticed when we've been working with children with film, right? And a lot of the topics that they take up, because they know that this is one space where they can express and talk about these issues without anyone sort of telling them not to do it or not to talk about it. And there's no monitoring happening there. So we found that I was working in a school in West Bengal, in rural West Bengal, and then in Sundarbans as well. And it took them a day or two to open up with us to talk about it, and it came in the story. So when they were writing the story, it was very interesting to see how they brought some of those issues that were there. There was also a very interesting story on child abuse that a boy in Kolkata made. And how the story is about how this child draws something that the teacher has asked him to do in class. So he's drawn, what is happening inside his house, the abuse that takes place. So it's, and that's what I think I'm constantly convinced
And
by.
Sherin, Sherin, in
Yes,
India,
yes, I mean,
girls and women are rarely heard. So
Yeah.
it becomes inherent, they become diffident. Girls and women are very rarely heard. I'm talking about it from the education and feminist action groups, because
that's
I
why
work with
we
them
have without filters, because this is a
without
space where
filters. Correct. So that is that without filters, we have to get there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
No, it's a beautiful name. I remember when Usha said without filters, I said, wow, that's for no other reason, but just for the name of the group, I think I should go and meet all of you.
clap to Rekha, she gave us the name. And Maria did the artwork. So we have two artists in the field. Maria is no more, she's in Canada. So we had, so it's
Fantastic.
Rekha's words and Rekha's naming of the group.
Without
Usha,
filters resonates in so many ways,
yeah,
so many dimensions.
absolutely.
I'd like to hear from the audience, guests that are here, Akila, Amal, Teruni, Sheena. You all have not, Sheena's not a guest, she's a member.
Any questions
Guys,
from
there's
the
so
rest
much
of
to
them?
share.
Yeah.
So much to share, please.
Shall
Amal has put some notes
Oh,
on the chat.
I saw Amal.
Yeah.
Is it on the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah, Amal's is on the chat.
Why would someone like, say, Michael Jackson or Whitney Houston, for example, being so creative, so musical and all that, why would they want to end their lives? Is there any reason for that? Because
Yeah.
would you be able to explain? I mean, Michael Jackson, I've read a little bit about him. He was sort of really scared of his dad. He was forced to perform, and he used to even purge when he saw his dad. So, I mean, to become so talented sometimes, do you need to be forced into something like that? Would he have reached those heights if he wasn't tormented, or whatever word it is, by his dad? Would he have become so famous if not for his dad's coaxing him to perform?
You know, Teruni, something that, and this is very personal, okay? I mean, I don't know if, I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me on this. You can, whether you're talented, okay, even if you're talented, you can certainly be, you know, you can go through a drill and you can become famous and you can do well, but it doesn't necessarily make you
happy.
Either happy or, you know, for me, art is like a holistic portal which allows you to be whole and complete and in harmony. If that is something that doesn't happen, whether you're a creator or whether you're experiencing art, then I think the whole point is lost. I've had several very, very interesting conversations with a lot of artists about the kind of life they lead, right? Which, like you just now said, if it takes you to that point where you have to end your life, I don't know whether that is something that's worth it and what art has really done. But yes, in the performing arts in particular, I think a lot of people, because see, just by the nature of the art form itself, if I write poetry or if I paint, there's only that much interaction that happens with the viewer and the audience. But performing arts, just by the nature of the art form itself, you have to perform for somebody, right? And there is a certain pressure. I think there's a huge pressure in being something else. And that's, so one of the things that when I was very, very young, my mother was an exceptional singer. She had a beautiful voice, and ideally she should have been a performing artist, but she gave up because she found it very difficult to navigate. I mean, in the early 70s, late 60s and early 70s, you know, the kind of environment and the culture for women to be able to become performers was not very conducive. So she gave it up, and something told me that I didn't want to become a professional. I didn't want to compromise to become a professional. Although singing is very, very important to me. I think if I don't sing, I will die. But yet, I think I made a choice not to be a professional in that sense. So I think it's a very, very hard life for professionals. And again, that's a choice, isn't it? Each one has made. I don't know if Michael Jackson's father forced him. He was clearly very, very talented. Yeah.
From what I have read, he used to even
and
purge when he used to see his dad.
Yeah, they had some
so scared of him.
financial issues as well. So they had to go out. And I think for that matter, even Lata Mangeshkar, she had to go out and earn a living. She had to go out and sing. And that must have been as a child. So I feel, you know, reality shows, I don't know if any of you see, but in India, we have a lot of reality shows with children. I think those are very, very problematic. Because that kind of commercialization, no learning is happening. These children are being exploited. So I see them as exploitation. I don't see it as art. I don't see it at all as any empowering experience. I clearly see children who are forced are being exploited for whatever reason.
Yeah. You know, you're just echoing my thoughts yesterday, because I was at a competition. It was a cinematic dance competition, and these children were performing to some sort of weird music, and what they were doing was more like gymnastics. And I kept thinking, what will happen to their kneecaps, their backs, you know, the kind of the performance that they were doing, the kind of acts that they were doing, you know. like a gymnast trains for such a long time. You can't practice dance and then try to combine that with it. And I kept thinking, as adults, what would be the damages? Is anyone even assessing this? You know, this was a thought that crossed my mind, and you are echoing the same thing. They don't have an understanding of the art form. They're just performing, you know, like
Absolutely.
circus monkeys, really.
Yeah,
Sorry
they're just
to say that.
mimicking actually, you know,
Yeah.
and I remember being at a conference some years ago here in India. And, you know, a lot of the songs that we learn, the compositions we learn in Hindustani classical music, for example, right? The words and the feelings behind the words are very, very adult, for example, right?
Yes.
And so I don't think I'm not sure that even some very good teachers and gurus are thinking about this. You know, what is it that I go through when I sing a song like that? Either I don't understand the words, you know, Ari Eri Ali Piya Bina. What do I know at 7? I have no way to experience that or understand that. Yeah. And I don't think it's important. To me, I'm sure there will be gurus who will disagree with me, but I can still learn Rag Yaman with words
That
or
are
without
conducive.
words.
Yeah.
Yeah, something that I can relate to. I
In my
think
age.
for me, these are very, very problematic areas. And, you know, getting children to mimic, getting them just because their bodies are flexible or their voices are flexible, getting them to copy, that is not going to nurture creativity because you're damaging them at a very, very young age. You're not allowing for, I think, the lesser drills, the lesser, you know, structured teaching at a young age. I know that a lot of people feel that if you're talented, then you should learn early, and but you can learn without a drill. I was very lucky. I had music all around me all the time, but my mother never forced me to sit down. The only time I really cried was that she asked me to go and, you know, there is a exam for classical music, a written exam. And I was 7 years old, and she said, you know, you please start off and go and do this. And I cried and I all kinds of tantrums, and I told her I can't. And I was really genuinely struggling because I don't, you know, at that point for me to write that exam was really tough. It was very boring, uninteresting. I loved going for the practical exam because I knew I could sing, but the written was really very, very painful. But I think she was coming from a different space, and she wanted me, she felt I could do it. I did it, but if I didn't want it for my child, I wouldn't want it for anyone to, you know, go through that. There are such beautiful ways to learn. If you have music playing around you, children will learn, and you will have a year. And, you know, and if you're a dancer, you're a musician, you'll want to dance. Nobody can stop you from doing it. But I think exploitation is a problem. Yes.
Bidisha, when you send us the link to the film, would you
Yes.
also send us a little snatch of your singing?
She's going to sing for us here a little bit.
Really?
Thought, yeah.
Okay,
We were
okay.
planning to ask her. There's just one question Neetu has asked in the
Yes,
message.
I was going to
Could you-
address
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So, Neetu, thanks for asking that question. Yes, of course. I mean, you know, again, learning how to make a film tips is a little hard, but I think what I would suggest is that if you have a phone, and, you know, most of us have a phone with a camera, I think the process I would look at would be to find a story, right? What story do you want to tell? If it's going to be a documentary, then go and do some research, find out about the story, get good source and good information for you to be able to make the documentary. Check with the people that who you want to make it on, if you have consent from them. These are some important things while making a documentary. If you have all of that, then do a little planning in terms of a visual planning, right? Who all do you want to interview? What kind of shots do you want to take, depending on the story? And it would be good for you to get some help online. There are lots of little tutorials on how to shoot with a mobile camera. So if you can, get some of that tutorial and then you go and shoot your film, you might need another tutorial on how to edit, which means get to a software, a simple free software that you can edit the film on. The other thing that I could suggest is if you're not very comfortable with filming, then you could do a photo essay, right? A photo documentary, still pictures, and write a piece. That could be another way to make it. I hope I've been able to answer that question. Of course, making a film is, fairly detailed. So.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions? Anyone else? If there are no questions, then could we ask you to sing for us, Bidisha?
Yes.
Pekha, that's very sweet of you. I've had a really bad throat for some time. And of course, I've been talking non-stop, which is not great
Oh,
for a
yeah,
singer
not very
because of our festival as well. But okay, I'll sing a couple of lines. I think, Mela will also remember. Leela acted in this film called Anuradha with Balraj Sahani. And it's a beautiful film. And for me, it's also very special because the music was composed by Pandit Ravi Shankar. And it has the most amazing songs in the film. So there's one song which is based on a beautiful raga called Maj Khambaj. It's a rag which there are lots of, I don't know if any of you are interested in semi-classical Hindustani forms, genres of music. A lot of thumris and, semi-classical compositions are based in Maj Khambaj. So I'll just sing a few lines and please pardon me for, having this very sore voice today. I'm just going to put my tanpura on and then I will sing a few lines. So the song is called Kaise Din Bite. I'm going to try and sing it. Let me know if the tanpura is too loud.
We can't hear the tanpura, but you
Okay.
can tell them the drift of the meaning of the song.
Okay.
So, kaise kati ratiya.
Yeah, kaise din bite, kaise biti ratiya, piya jane na. So, it's a kind of a song where, the lady's waiting and she's waiting for her lover to come home, but he doesn't come. So and in this film, the context is that Anuradha, played by Leela, is married to Balraj Sahni, who's a doctor, and he's very, very busy. So they've gotten married, they fell in love, and they've gotten married, but he's hardly ever there. So she's pained, she's sad, and it's from there that she's singing this song of there are nights where she waits for him, but he's too busy and he has no time for her. Okay? कैसे दिन बीते, कैसे बीती रतियाँ, पिया जाने ना है। कैसे दिन बीते, कैसे बीती रतियाँ, पिया जाने ना। नेह लगा के मैं पछताई, नेह लगा के मैं पछताई, सारी सारी रहना निंदिया ना आई। जान के देखो मेरी भीगी बत्तियाँ, जान के देखो मेरी भीगी बत्तियाँ, पिया जाने ना है। कैसे दिन बीते, कैसे बीती रतियाँ, पिया जाने ना। गजरा न सोहे, गजरा न सोहे, गजरा न सोहे, गजरा न सोहे, बरखाना भाई बदराना सोहे। क्या करूं जो पूछे मुझसे मोरी सखियां, क्या करूं जो पूछे मुझसे मोरी सखियां, पिया जाने ना है। कैसे दिन बीते, कैसे बीती रतियां, पिया जाने ना।
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Just beautiful, yeah.
Lovely. Thank you.
Amal is saying, I know I don't understand, but it still is beautiful.
Thank you. You know, my grandmother used to say when we were young, when we would be asked to sing, and we would say, no, you know, today our throat's not okay, we have a cough, this, that, all sorts of excuses not to sing. And she used to always tell me that you should feel blessed that there are people who want to listen to you. So never say no to anyone who asks you to sing, which is true, absolutely. I think, you know,
Yeah.
what would we do if
You
we
know,
didn't have people to
Sheena
listen
has
to us?
written beautiful. For some reason, I'm reminded of my grandfather's radio.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure maybe it played.
True.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Bidisha. You have really
Thank you.
enhanced our perspective on art and creativity, really. Are there any more questions? Is there anything anyone would like to ask before we will wind up, right, Shireen?
Yeah, at least some perspectives from
Yeah, the people who attended. Anything, if you all want to say anything.
there are some quiet voices around here, some perspectives on art and what art has done in your respective places of
Yes.
work. We'd like to hear from you guys.
No one seems to want to say anything.
Lots of thank you on the chat. So thank you. Thank you for
Yes.
having me, and thank you for listening to me. It was wonderful meeting all of you.
Yeah, and we hope that you will come back again and do
Definitely.
maybe some workshops for us as a
Definitely,
group as
definitely.
well. You know, thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Bidisha.
Enhancing our vocal cords.
Bidisha's
And have a
actually
future music session.
you know, Bidisha is actually swamped because she's got a film festival
Coming up, yeah.
on 1st of
Yes.
July, and I was surprised she accepted to do this when I asked her. And that's why I would like to say thank you.
No,
Thank
in
you.
fact,
Thank
I need to
you.
say sorry to Shireen because I've been so non-responsive with her. She's been messaging me, and I think I sent her a reply back in 2 days. So apologies
That's
for
okay.
it. But
We just
please
do
do keep
something,
me
Maria. That's
posted
okay.
on
Thank you.
all your other. I would love to come and listen to the other speakers
For
who
sure.
come on board, and hope to interact a lot more with all of you. Thank you so much.
Really lovely evening. I really enjoyed it. Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Yeah.
Thank
you
you
very
so
much.
much.
Thank you
Bye.
everyone for attending, and thank you,
Thank you
Bidisha.
for organizing.
All the best for your film festival. We will be getting all the news through
Yeah, and
Usha as
please
well as
do-
online.
Please do watch the films. They're fantastic, and do support the young filmmakers and encourage them.
Yeah.
I hope something of my forwards have reached your. I'm not sure. I just sent it out to Australia.
Nobody has responded. Bidisha, Shireen had forwarded the festival circular, especially to propagate it in other markets in Australia, etc.,
Okay.
to a bunch of her friends.
Yeah,
So
I
I
did.
composed a standard mail and given it to her to forward.
I forwarded
But she's been spreading the word around for us.
Yeah.
And Rekha did a lot of.
Sometimes takes a little while, Shireen.
I think
mean,
so,
we
yeah.
if we keep they get to hear more from us over a period of time, they will
Yeah,
respond. I'm sure.
I think in Bahrain we caught it at the wrong time because it was Ramadan, and we didn't have the
after
facility
came,
to spread it at that time. Maybe next year,
Absolutely,
Yeah, it
definitely.
takes time to catch up.
So,
Unfortunately, there was a friend, I think she's held up on something. She's from Perth. She's, as I told you, an examiner for the board exams for speech and drama. Her daughter sings. She's a classical trained English soprano voice, and her
Okay.
son-in-law is in theatre. And they wanted to sit in with you in sort of a synergy experience. Unfortunately, they haven't made it. I wouldn't know for what reason. So they haven't been able to come in. I would have wished they did. So that would have been nice, but it's nice. I mean, we haven't heard from Akila, who's also in, I think, theater, and she's in HR. She's been very quiet. Thank you, Teruni, for your sharings. Sheena is at work,
Thank
so
you
we
for organizing,
yeah.
Shireen.
and Mela.
Thank you. Thank you everyone, and bye-bye, and we'll see you next month in the
Bye.
Without Filters session. Thank you, Bidisha.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you so
everybody.
much.
Thank you
That
very
was
much.
I
rejuvenated
will
us.
send Leela's film
Yeah.
link. Usha, I'll
Please
send it
do.
to you, and you can share it. With
I'll put
everyone.
it there. Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. I'm just
Thank
stopping
you.
the
Bye-bye.
recording.
All the best. Thank you.